Welcome to The Critique. Today we're looking at a transcript from the Storybox's video defending Erika Kirk and pushing back against attacks from Candace Owens.
This is a really raw piece of writing. You can feel the heat coming right off the page.
You really can, and that intensity is actually where we need to start. The author is, clearly coming from a place of deep loyalty and anger.
Which is understandable. I mean, it's a widow being attacked.
Absolutely. But when you look at the text, the single biggest thing holding it back is, well, it's the weaponization of that anger. The piece wants to claim the moral high ground, but it's trying to do it while slinging mud.
You're talking about the language choices?
I am. Let's just look at the words. We have narcissistic, psychopathic dingbat witch of a scumbag.
Yeah.
We have sick, twisted, evil, and, nut jobs.
It's visceral. And look, if you're a friend, that's probably exactly how you feel. It must feel good to write that. You feel like you're punching back. So I cut it. I mean, if they're being nasty, shouldn't you fight fire with fire?
It shows emotion, for sure, but I'm not sure it actually shows strength. I'd argue it kind of signals a loss of control. When you're trying to persuade a neutral audience, someone who isn't already convinced, that kind of vitriol just looks like weakness. It creates this parody.
A false equivalence.
Exactly.
If Candace Owens is calling people names and you turn around and call her a dingbat witch, to the average listener, well, you just sound like two people screaming in a parking lot. You lose that distinction between the bully and the defender.
So it's a strategic error. You're lowering yourself to their level. Precisely. The goal here is to defend Erika Kirk's dignity. And you don't defend dignity with, undignified language. There's this one line that really stands out to me.
Which one?
Have a seat right next to Candace on the bus to hell. For the author's base, that's a rallying cry. But for a skeptic, it just sounds unhinged.
It completely shuts down the debate, right? The second you tell someone to go to hell, they're not listening to your logic anymore.
Not at all.
But the author obviously wants to convey how terrible these attacks are. If they can't use insults, how do they get that disgust across?
You have to shift your approach. You move from, say, retaliatory aggression to more of an objective dismantling.
Show, don't tell?
Exactly. Instead of just screaming that Elizabeth Lane is a dingbat, calmly present her behavior and let the audience come to their own conclusion that she's incompetent.
Right, because the text attacks her for relying on vibes and physical discomfort to diagnose people.
That's the irony, isn't it? She calls herself an investigative journalist, but admits she's just working off bad vibes.
So you use that.
That is the weapon you use. You don't need the insult. You could just rewrite it to say something like, it's remarkably telling that a self-proclaimed investigative journalist rests her case on vibes rather than on evidence.
That hurts way more than dingbat. It attacks her professional credibility.
It's the difference between a slap and a lawsuit, right? One stings for a second, the other can actually ruin you. And the word dingbat is used over and over again. It becomes a crutch.
It almost trivializes them. If they're just dingbats, why should we be so worried?
That's the point. If they are dangerous manipulators, you have to treat them with the seriousness of a threat, not like a cartoon character.
I see that. So if you call them a witch of a scumbag, you sound hysterical. But if you call them, predatory opportunists targeting a grieving family, you sound like a prosecutor.
That is the shift. We need to move this from the schoolyard to the courtroom. And that actually brings us to the substance of the argument, because the insults are really just papering over a deeper issue.
You're talking about the psychopathy claims.
Right. Lane and Owens are using a very specific strategy. They're weaponizing clinical language. They're not just saying Erika is mean. They're saying she shows effective mimicry, rehearsed emotional displays.
And that she fits the Robert Hare psychopathy checklist. It's pseudoscience, obviously, diagnosing a woman from YouTube clips, but it sounds authoritative. It sounds smart to a layperson.
And this is where the current draft really struggles, because the author counters these scientific-sounding claims with purely subjective, almost spiritual defenses.
I noticed that. The text says things like, I would think that my spirit is guided by the Holy Spirit, and I see her as a loving, kind, beautiful human.
Do you see the mismatch there?
Yeah, it's like bringing a poem to a gunfight.
That's a great way of putting it. I feel she is good is never going to defeat she displays clinical traits of psychopathy in the court of public opinion.
Because the average person might think, well, of course her friends think she's nice, but maybe these analysts are on to something.
So how do you fight that? You can't just say, nuh-uh, she isn't.
Right.
You have to attack the methodology. You have to dismantle the very idea that Elizabeth Lane is even qualified to make that diagnosis. And this is where the author needs to bring in the Goldwater.
The psychiatric ethics rule, refresh my memory on that.
Yes, it's Section 7 from the American Psychiatric Association's Principles. It explicitly says it's unethical for psychiatrists to diagnose public figures they haven't personally examined.
Because it's scientifically invalid.
Exactly. Now, Lane isn't a psychiatrist, but the principle is the same. The argument has to become real psychology requires clinical observation. What Lane is doing isn't analysis. It's fiction masquerading as science.
Okay, so you strip away her authority. You tell the audience, anyone claiming to diagnose a stranger's mental state from a video is a fraud. That completely neutralizes the science angle.
It does. And there's another logical gap I noticed. The author defends Erika by saying Charlie Kirk was a great man, but they don't quite connect the dots on why that matters for Candace's argument.
Oh, that's a huge missed opportunity in the text.
A huge one. I mean, Candace Owens spent years praising Charlie Kirk. She validated his intellect, his leadership.
She built her career on his platform.
Right. So if she claims Charlie was this brilliant guy, how does she also explain him marrying a supposed psychopath?
That is the trap you have to spring.
Yes. The script needs to ask the question, are we supposed to believe that the same Charlie Kirk, whom Candace called a visionary, was so blind he lived with a monster and just didn't notice?
You force her into a corner.
Either Charlie was a fool or Erika is innocent. She can't have it both ways.
And that is so much more devastating than just saying Erika is nice. It uses logic. It uses Candace's own words against her.
There's one more thread in that psychopathy narrative that the text touches on, but doesn't really exploit. The whole wolf seeking power. The Lady Macbeth.
Right. It mentions that Erika was completely under the radar before Charlie died, but it just says it in passing. That needs to be central evidence.
Because a narcissist doesn't hide. A narcissist craves the spotlight. They need that supply. If Erika Kirk were some calculated, power-hungry mastermind, why did nobody know who she was for years? The timeline of her anonymity is the strongest evidence against that diagnosis.
The script needs to hammer that home.
It does. It has to say something like, the psychological profile fails because the behavior doesn't match. Wolves don't hide in the sheep pen and never eat the sheep.
That moves it from defense to offense. But all of these great points, the Goldwater rule, the logic trap, the timeline, they're all going to get lost if the listener can't follow the story. And right now, following this transcript is a challenge.
It's chaotic. That's the only word for it. It reads like a reaction video where someone's pausing a clip to just yell at the screen.
Yeah.
We jump from Konstantin Kissin to a rant about the devil, to a huge block quote from Elizabeth Lane, then back to Candace Owens and Black Lives Matter.
It's ironic, isn't it? The author criticizes Lane for being all over the place, but the script itself kind of gives you whiplash.
It's cognitive load. The listener is spending so much energy just trying to figure out who is saying what that they don't have any energy left to be persuaded.
I really struggled with the Elizabeth Lane quote. I mean, the author reads huge chunks of her post.
And that is a fatal error in a critique like this. You never, ever give your opponent the microphone for that long.
You're doing her work for her.
You're reinforcing her accusation. You're repeating the association between Erika and psychopath in the listener's mind, even if you're trying to mock.
So this needs a complete restructure.
So Act 1, the pattern. This is where you put all the history on Candace Owens.
So before you even mention Erika, you establish who the attacker is.
Yes, put all the stuff about Thomas Sowell, Larry Elder, the BLM grift, put it all up front. The goal is to establish Candace as an unreliable narrator before the audience even hears her claim. You're priming the jury to distrust the witness.
That's smart. Here is a woman who has a history of this behavior. Now let's see what she's doing today.
Exactly. Then you move to Act 2, the proxy. This is where you deal with Elizabeth Lane.
And this is where we summarize instead of quoting, right?
2 sentences, maximum. Something like, Candace is now using a proxy, Elizabeth Lane, who claims she can diagnose psychopathy from facial expression. That's it. You don't read the whole wolf-type diatribe. You state the claim, then you dismantle it with the Goldwater rule and the vibes critique.
Keeps the focus on the absurdity of the method, not the details of the lie.
And then, Act 3, the reality. This is your closing argument. This is where you pivot to Erika. You talk about her silence, her lack of public ambition, Charlie's will.
That feels so much more powerful. You end on the victim. You end on the truth.
It changes the whole emotional arc of these. Right now, it just kind of ends with exhausted anger. This structure, it builds to a crescendo of, vindication.
Speaking of focus, there was one section that the notes flagged for removal, the little bit about Constantine.
Have a good evening, Constantine, mate.
It's friendly, it's very British, but it feels completely out of place in a defense of a widow against what the author calls evil.
It just dilutes the gravity of the situation. If you are standing there, defending a woman's soul from demonic attacks, you don't pause to have a casual chat with a mate in the comments.
It breaks the fourth wall, but in a bad way.
It reminds the audience, oh, this is just a YouTuber talking to another YouTuber, instead of this is a serious defense of a human being.
So cut it. Keep your eyes on the prize.
Okay, so let's pull all this together. The author has the raw materials here. They have the passion, they have the facts, and frankly, they're on the right side of it. But the execution is just getting in the way of the message.
It's a classic case of the messenger obscuring the message.
To fix it, we really need 3 major shifts. First, tone. Drop the dingbats, drop the witches, replace the insults with irony. Make the audience laugh at the opponent's incompetence instead of making them cringe at your aggression.
Second is evidence. Stop fighting science with feelings. Fight their pseudoscience with actual ethics and logic. Use the Goldwater rule. Use the timeline of Erika's anonymity. And use Candace's own praise of Charlie against her.
And third, structure. Stop the stream of consciousness. Organize this thing like a prosecution. The pattern, the proxy, and the reality. Do not let the opponents hijack the microphone. Summarize, dismantle, and move on.
If the author makes these changes, this piece stops being a rant and it starts being a definitive record. And for Erika's sake, that's really what this needs to be.
We want to thank the listener for submitting this. It takes a lot of courage to put a piece this personal up for a critique like this, but the potential upside is just massive. We want to see this version of the script, the version that doesn't just get angry, but gets even through logic and clarity.
Absolutely. Rewrite it, tighten it, and please, send it back.
We'll be waiting. Until then, keep writing.